Daniel wanted everybody to see him fire Elijah. That was the point. He didn't call Elijah into an office. He didn't close a door. He stood in the middle of the floor, raised his voice just enough for every desk nearby to hear, and said, "Elijah, today is your last day." Nobody moved. Elijah didn't argue. He didn't ask why. He picked up his lunch bag, buttoned his faded gray jacket, and looked Daniel directly in the eye. Then he said something that made Nina stop typing. "Before you celebrate, have legal read page 17 of your lease." Daniel laughed. Actually laughed. Then Elijah walked out. 3 days later, Daniel would be sitting in an emergency meeting trying to explain why he had fired the man who owned the building. But nobody knew that yet. And Daniel had just started celebrating. Elijah had worked there for almost 5 years. Most employees couldn't even tell you his exact title. He handled building operations, deliveries, supply rooms, access problems, contractors, the little things people never thought about until something stopped working. He arrived early. He spoke quietly. He drove an older pickup truck. He carried the same black lunch bag almost every day, and he never told anybody more about himself than they needed to know. At first, that made people curious. Eventually, it made him invisible. The one exception was Nina at the front desk. Every morning, she greeted him by name. "Morning, Elijah." "Morning, Nina." She had no idea who he really was. She just believed people deserved respect before they proved they were important. Daniel believed the opposite. He was the company's new operations manager. 39 years old, polished, ambitious, confident, and the kind of man who noticed whether people looked impressed when he entered a room. He had been hired to modernize operations. By the end of his first week, Daniel was already talking about people as numbers, who produced, who didn't, who belonged, who had been there too long. Elijah never seemed impressed by him. That bothered Daniel. One morning, Daniel watched Elijah walk past his office carrying maintenance records. "Who exactly is that guy?" he asked Nina. "Elijah. I know his name. What does he actually do?" Nina glanced toward Elijah. "More than people notice?" Daniel smiled. "That usually means nobody knows." The first real clash came 2 weeks later. Daniel wanted contractors to convert part of the south wing into additional offices. Elijah told him the work required written property approval before demolition could begin. Daniel barely looked up. "Who told you that?" "The lease." Daniel smiled. "You read the lease?" "I know the building." A few people looked at each other. Daniel leaned back. "Elijah, I appreciate that you've been around a while, but we're not running every decision through maintenance." Elijah stayed calm. "I didn't say run it through me. I said, get approval." Daniel turned toward the contractors. "Proceed." Then he looked back at Elijah. "We're trying to move forward around here." A couple employees laughed politely. Elijah gathered his papers. "Just remember I told you." Daniel would remember, just not soon enough. The disrespect became a habit. Daniel interrupted Elijah in meetings. Once, in front of 2 supervisors, he called him the building's hall monitor. Another time, he asked why the company was still paying someone to walk around checking doors. Elijah never took the bait. That frustrated Daniel even more. One afternoon, Nina caught Elijah leaving the break room. "How do you keep letting him talk to you like that?" Elijah smiled slightly. "I'm listening." "To what?" "To what people tell you about themselves when they think you can't do anything for them." Nina stared at him. "You're different." Elijah picked up his coffee. "No, people just behave different when they think you don't matter." By the end of the month, Daniel decided Elijah had to go. Not because Elijah was bad at his job. Daniel couldn't point to a single failure. Elijah simply didn't fit the image Daniel wanted. Daniel called it restructuring. He told another manager Elijah was legacy overhead. Then he said something that would come back to haunt him. If nobody can explain why we still need him, we don't. Nina overheard it. Later, she walked into Daniel's office. You might want to slow down with Elijah. Daniel looked amused. Why? I think there's more there than you realize. Daniel laughed. Nina, he carries keys and checks supply closets. She turned toward the door. Then why does everybody call him when something important happens? Daniel's smile disappeared for half a second, then came back. Thursday afternoon, Daniel made his move. Elijah. The whole office heard him. Elijah looked up. Daniel stood near the center aisle with an HR packet in his hand. That was when Nina knew something was wrong. Daniel could have handled it privately. He chose not to. He wanted the room. Elijah, after reviewing the position, we've decided your role no longer fits the direction of the company. Elijah stood. Daniel continued. We need people who demonstrate measurable value. That line made Nina close her eyes for a second. Daniel handed him the envelope. There's information regarding final pay and benefits. Elijah looked at it, then at Daniel. You finished? The question threw him. Yes. Elijah picked up his lunch bag. Then he stopped beside Daniel. Before you celebrate, Daniel's smile tightened. Have legal read page 17 of your lease. The office went silent. Daniel chuckled. Elijah, you're being terminated. This isn't the time for threats. Elijah looked almost disappointed. That wasn't a threat. Then he left. Within 20 minutes, Daniel was telling people it had gone exactly as expected. Sometimes people get emotional when they're let go. Then he approved demolition work in the south wing for Monday morning. Nina stood at his doorway. Did you check what he said? Daniel didn't look away from his computer. Page 17? Yes. Nina, I'm not spending my evening chasing some bitter ex-employee's riddle. He didn't look bitter. Daniel looked up. What did he look like? Nina thought for a second. Certain. Daniel's smile faded. Friday morning at 9:17, Daniel received an email from corporate legal. The subject line read, Urgent, South Wing work stoppage. The message ordered him to immediately suspend all contractor activity. At 9:42, a second email arrived from the property attorney. Unauthorized alteration of leased premises. Daniel's chest tightened. At 10:05, he finally opened the company lease. Page 14, 15, 16, then 17. His eyes stopped. No structural modification, demolition, repurposing, or permanent alteration could take place without written authorization from the property owner. Daniel whispered something under his breath. Then he scrolled to the ownership section, ET Property Group, LLC. He stared at the name, then walked out to Nina's desk holding the printout. Do you know who ET Property Group is? Nina looked at the paper. Yes. Daniel swallowed. Who? Elijah. Daniel laughed once. Not because it was funny. Sometimes disbelief just comes out sounding like laughter. No. Elijah works here. Worked here, Nina said. He owns the building? I didn't know that until now. Daniel pointed at the paper. Then how did you know? I've signed for certified mail from the property company for 3 years. Daniel's expression changed. You never thought to tell me? Nina looked at him. You never asked. By lunch, the management team knew. By 3 o'clock, corporate had scheduled an emergency meeting for Monday morning. Daniel spent the weekend convincing himself everything could still be fixed. Monday morning, Daniel arrived 40 minutes early. Best suit, notes, explanations. A timeline showing the renovation decision had been made in good faith. At 9 o'clock, corporate joined the call. At 9:03, the regional director asked, Is Elijah here yet? Daniel's mouth went dry. At 9:05, the conference room door opened. Elijah walked in. No lunch bag, no faded jacket, dark tailored blazer, white shirt, no tie, calm face. He walked directly to the empty chair at the head of the table. Daniel stood halfway up. Elijah looked at him. "Let's keep this professional today." Daniel slowly sat back down. Corporate explained the situation. Elijah's property company had owned the building for 11 years. He acquired it after selling a regional facilities business he had built decades earlier. The company Daniel worked for had been leasing space from Elijah the entire time. Previous executives knew, legal knew, accounting knew. Most employees didn't, because Elijah never advertised it. After his wife died, he took the operations position because he wanted routine. He knew the building better than anyone, and he genuinely enjoyed working. Then Elijah spoke. "For 5 years I watched how people treated me when they thought I had nothing they wanted." Nobody interrupted. He looked toward Daniel. "You had 7 weeks." Daniel shifted in his chair. "In 7 weeks, you ignored property restrictions, approved work you weren't authorized to approve, mocked an employee for warning you, and terminated that employee publicly." Daniel started to speak. "Elijah, I want to sincerely apologize." Elijah raised one hand. "No!" The room froze. "Don't apologize because you found out I own the building." Daniel said nothing. Elijah leaned back. "If I didn't own it, would what you did have been acceptable?" Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. "That's what I thought." Corporate took over from there. The lease violation was serious. So was Daniel's conduct. Not because Elijah was wealthy, not because he was the landlord, because Daniel had created a documented pattern of ignoring warnings, humiliating staff, and making decisions he didn't fully understand. By Wednesday afternoon, Daniel no longer worked for the company. There was no public firing, no audience, no performance, just a closed-door meeting, an escort to his office, and a cardboard box. A few days later, Nina saw Elijah in the lobby. "So what happens now?" Elijah smiled. "To the company?" "To you." He thought about it. "I own a few buildings, I've got investments. I'll stay busy." Nina laughed. "That's not what I meant." Elijah knew. "Why didn't you tell anybody?" He looked around the lobby. "Would it have made you treat me differently?" "No." "Exactly." Then he glanced toward the elevators. "Money will tell you a lot about people." Nina nodded. Elijah shook his head. "No. Thinking somebody has no money will tell you more." Elijah never needed the office to know what he owned. Daniel needed the office to know what title he had. That was the difference between them. One man thought power was something you performed. The other understood that real power didn't need an announcement. They saw an old truck, a lunch bag, a faded jacket, a man who didn't brag, and they decided that meant he had nothing. They were wrong, because sometimes the person everybody overlooks isn't trying to get into the room. Sometimes he owns the room and the building around it.